Hello, Facebook! Renee Hribar here, sales strategist, TEDx speaker, and author. And my goal today is to help you understand what questions you should be asking about your coming plans. Now, I am bringing on someone that I've worked with for years. I absolutely love the way she goes through the process of helping me decide, and many of her clients, should we cancel or reschedule special events that we have planned in the coming weeks and months. So welcome, Wendy Guth of Rebel on the Go Travel. Woo-hoo!
Well, thank you.
So Wendy, for those who haven't had the pleasure of meeting you yet, maybe you can tell them a little bit about your backstory and how who you are.
Sure. So prior to being in this online space,
Yes.
I spent 30 years as a meeting planner for associations and corporations in the Washington, D.C. area. So I can say that what is currently going on in the world, it's happened before. We've survived before. We'll survive again. So I could start with that. And then in 2016, I had a very much of a life pivot and decided that I wanted to focus my energy on travel and more for the personal side. So it's been almost 4 years.
Yeah, and I remember meeting you when I first came in the online space. You had your Rebel on the Go course, and it was all about how to use travel as transformation. And
Exactly.
at the end, you're like, if you want to go on a trip, you can book a trip. And I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. What a great way to start the conversation about travel, where we might go, how we might use it, get us inspired, and then invite us to book it with someone who knows how to get us there. It was such a great thing, and our companies have been working together for a long time. And
just about 4 years.
I know, and I just love the process that you take because it is a big decision. So, let's say, for example, there's a group of us who, we had booked a big anniversary trip, and I wanted to bring my friends or my family along, and let's say there were 8 of us, and we all wanted to go to Italy. Well, right now, it's not a good time to go to Italy.
It's really not a good time.
But let's say we were booked for like May, right?
Okay.
So
sure.
what are some of the first? I mean, I know, but like, what are some of the first questions you would ask a client to help them decide if this trip should be rescheduled or canceled?
Right. Well, exactly. And the first thing is really, can it be rescheduled? And most cases, the rescheduling can be as much as a year out.
Yeah.
I have clients who actually, who are right now looking at 1 year from today to reschedule. And in a lot of cases, or at least the travel suppliers that I work with have been absolutely amazing about, trying to waive fees and trying to waive and just trying to make the process as easy as possible to really ultimately get whatever the client wants. And I will say, let's assume that the client says, you know what, this is a big birthday. What if maybe it's for 50? Why not make it 51?
Right.
And that is actually what a lot of people are doing. And the first thing is, right now, if a trip is within the next 2 weeks, you contact the supplier.
Right.
If the trip is not within the next 2 weeks, email to supplier. And that's actually one of the great things about being a travel advisor. I have email addresses.
That's right. It's like having the email address for Facebook. You know what I'm saying?
Or the email address for Expedia.
Right.
So, I don't know why I'm laughing. That's not funny.
But people. That's the thing, is because of your experience. What I love about working with you is that you bring all that experience and your connection with the suppliers. The suppliers pay you, and it doesn't cost me extra for you to have planned this excursion. Like, in Alaska, you're like, oh, hold on, you got to go through this, and it was a special excursion you booked us on. The Disney cruise ship didn't even have available to us, and it was like it was a special extra thing, and it actually ended up whatever Disney was offering. You actually got for half, and it was even cooler. I was like, That got my husband on Team Wendy, by the way.
Dog sledding.
Right, totally dog sledding. So in this case, in this scenario, you're saying one of the things is, can it be rescheduled?
Exactly.
And if it can be, look at the times, 2 weeks out or longer, maybe it's for next year. Okay.
Exactly. Now, if you're working with a travel advisor, then they will have the information readily available in
Right.
terms of what are the suppliers doing, what are the parameters, what are the restrictions, all of that.
Yeah.
Now, if you are doing a vacation on your own, or even sometimes say with Costco or some of the other online let's see, what are they? Advisors? They're not really advisors. Online ticket takers. Yes. I would say that you need to do a little bit of legwork yourself, and you just start Googling. And you just really want to know before you do anything what exactly, what does it mean? Right now, I'm also seeing that for people who, as soon as this happened, say the end of February, or really got going, end of February, beginning of March, the knee jerk was, I'm going to cancel. So the problem with that is a lot of them lost out on their deposits because they actually just didn't wait a week, or even 2 weeks. So what you really need to know is what are the parameters of what you've booked,
Right,
and where you're going.
Yep.
And then see you want to kind of wait to the last minute, because things change. People who were booked to Europe and canceled too soon, unfortunately, many people lost their trips completely. Had they waited until the airline restrictions went in, and then the airlines were, hey, we want you to rebook. Hey,
Right.
Fees, those sorts of things. So sometimes it just takes a little patience, and I know there is nothing harder than that, and we all want to be in control. And when someone says to you, spring break is not happening, or your vacation isn't happening, it is so hard not to want to just shake someone. But it's just sometimes just taking a step back and really thinking, just waiting to see what happens.
Yeah.
So I highly recommend that. And also take time to talk with the people you're traveling with. Can you reschedule? And then the one thing that I have been able to do for my clients is with the supplier saying, okay, they're going to reschedule. We're just not going to decide right now.
Right.
And that is something you definitely want to push for. There's nothing worse than having to be on the phone, especially with an airline, and they're saying, decide. It's like you're stressed to begin with, and you just want to freak out.
Right.
So the thing is, really push that they can, and suppliers can bank. They can bank whatever your deposit was or whatever it is, and you just don't want to lose that.
Right, exactly.
And what I'm also finding...
That's good advice. But I want to say something right there, because that's such good advice. So know how much time, what the parameters are, how much time until you travel.
Exactly.
Ask questions about what the actual cancellation or rescheduling policies are, because oftentimes you can say, I'm going to reschedule, and you don't have to decide on when yet.
Exactly.
And a lot of people don't know that. They think, I have to make all my decisions now, so I'm just going to cancel. And that is, I've seen so many people, like you just said, lose their money, lose their trip because they made too quick of a knee-jerk reaction. And that's why I thought it was so important. I heard so many friends, like our whole school, rescheduled spring break. Oh, okay, great. Glad we all had plans. And I see people just, we lost that trip. I'm like,
Oh, no. I mean, I'm scheduled to fly to San Juan for spring break April 4th. Not. So by the end of the week, I'm giving, and I'm flying with American Airline Vacations.
Right.
I'm giving them a little bit of time, and then I'm going to say to them that I want to reschedule, bank my money, and I will reschedule once we have a clearer picture of when we can really start traveling again. Because again, there's also nothing worse than, I'm going to go in June, and we're not sure about where things are or what's happening. So there's nothing worse than then having to say, you mean I have to reschedule again?
Right,
That's
exactly.
when people really start to saying, I don't want this.
Right.
And, the whole concept of travel is supposed to be an experience, and the process is not supposed to be harrowing. Really.
Right. It's supposed to be relaxing, harrowing.
Exactly.
But this right here is so important to remember, is that you can do these things. It is possible. And and this is I always say, I'm the biggest proponent of like having a travel agent. And people think, oh, you're fancy, you pay a travel agent. Well, there are some times when you need to prepay for a little bit of itinerary planning, but that's going to save me hours and hours and hours. And that's not always necessary. A lot of times, Wendy, I've bought things from you, you're like, no, it's prepackaged, it's done, I'll just book it for you. The supplier pays you, there's no extras. So like there's so many reasons why. This is one of the biggest ones though.
Well, and yeah, I really, yes. And one of the things that I like to do is also talk to clients about, there's, right now we are all in this lack of control. We are all overwhelmed. We are all in this state of, disbelief. And not like the good Disney disbelief,
Right, especially when it comes to travel. We all have, because in the Northern Hemisphere, we're walking into spring break, we're walking into summer. We don't know what the end date of this, quarantine or whatever is going to be. So it's so important to ask those questions. So you said it so well. Know the dates.
Yes.
Wait.
Yes.
Call the supplier. And if this is not something you want to do, here's my question to you. What if someone did try to book, or they already did book their own trip, but now that all this flux is happening, could they still contact a travel advisor like you and ask for review of that trip? Or is that not something, I don't know. This is an honest question.
Yeah, no, actually, typically not.
Okay.
I do know right now that, and I have not gotten any of these calls, but I do know that travel advisors have received phone calls from clients who happen to book on their own, and they're in Europe right now.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Yes. And so in those instances, really what a travel advisor can do is help facilitate the return, but not necessarily, and it's really, it's not necessarily a travel advisor thing, it's actually a supplier thing.
Right.
Once you have committed, the suppliers take that very seriously.
Right.
And they don't transfer
commissions.
Well,
basically.
It's not even, it's more like allegiance.
Okay, gotcha.
Because, and most travel advisors at this stage of the game, we just want to help.
Agreed, which is why I asked that question.
So, but I do know that, using connections, and that travel advisors have been able to get their clients home faster than not at these. I mean, I have heard the most horrible stories of, ridiculous fares coming home for trying to get home from Europe.
Yeah.
And also, calling a travel advisor sometimes can also help sort of calm down the situation and say, look, being in Europe, you're going to have to be quarantined at this end anyway.
Right.
There's some, Americans do not have to rush home.
Right.
We can get you home as quickly as possible, yet not, $10,000 for like a coach ticket is
crazy. Right.
So,
crazy.
Yeah. So I would say that it never hurts to call someone and say, hey, can you help?
Exactly.
And just, it's like, calling a doctor or a realtor, whatever, we give our best advice, and then, go on from there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that is one thing, like, since our companies have worked together, like, you take on that role you already have of that trusted advisor. And this is, I teach sales, but sales doesn't happen. It's not just the transactional part. It's the entire relationship. And that's one thing that you have so embodied through all of our work together. You are literally like that lifelong friend that people can call on and ask that advice of. And that, especially when you've traveled or they've traveled with you before in terms of you planning their trips, you know their situation, you have experience with them, they have experience with you, and it's that lifelong network of clients that you have built and are continuing to build by utilizing and leveraging these systems. So I really felt compelled, because of the things that are happening in my own sphere of influence, there are so many people just canceling and losing their shirt. And there's so many options. And I know you have a process, and now you've shared it with us. And I'm so, so, so thankful.
Well, thank you for giving me this opportunity. And because I think you and I are very similar. And actually, I think most of the people in this group are very similar in that we really love what we do.
Right. Exactly.
Well, we take what we do very seriously. And the desire to help people get through this or any type of bad situation, I mean, that's really what it's all about in the end. So I can't, it just makes me very upset to hear when travel experiences go bad.
Right. Can't return a bad vacation, right? We've heard that a ton of times.
Yes. And so, I can say there will be more vacations in the future.
Exactly.
I mean, just like we survived 9/11, just like we survived a lot of other times. It just happens right now. We're kind of cooped up, which is the perfect time to just let your mind wander and dream a little bit.
Absolutely. And I love that you are helping us do that in your group. So I'll make sure to put the links here to Wendy's group, Rebel on the Go community. She's doing virtual vacations. So the places that she's been in, she's traveled all over the world, both for work and for fun, and a little bit of both each time. And so, so, so fun. I think this week we're going to Paris, right?
Well, actually.
Virtually.
Yeah, well, we're definitely going to Paris. And also I think we're going to go to Scotland first.
Ooh.
I have something up my sleeve.
You have such a good story. So for those of you who don't know Wendy, Scotland, the foot in the water of Scotland was like her aha moment when she's like, forget all this, I'm doing it on my own. And that's where Rebel on the Go is started.
Well, and I'm going to be interviewing the person who was actually taking the picture.
Oh, so fun.
Yes, so I have, I'm really looking forward to, and that will be up very soon.
I love it.
Yeah, so.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for sharing your process about how to decide, should I cancel or should I reschedule? And how do I go through that? You've really laid it out for us. You've made it so clear. I'm so thankful for you. Thank you so much, Wendy. And for those of you listening, whether it's live or on the replay, let us know any questions you have, or if you've rescheduled, or if you've canceled, and maybe, just for funsies, where you want to go next. Because maybe we'll go there virtually.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Wendy.